Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Office Bloke Daz.
I'm Gaynor.
Office Bloke Aidan.
Here we are, all three of us. Top 10 states that don't matter, but somehow exist anyway.
This is going to piss off some people.
Well, you got to imagine Wyoming's on the list.
Why? Wyoming. No, I think you got the...
Barely anybody there compared to the size
I
of
think
it.
they all matter,
Exactly.
one way or another. I mean, you got agricultural sort of side for the Wyoming stuff, haven't you?
Yeah.
Farmland and all that kind of stuff, and beef.
Yeah, but if it wasn't there, do you reckon anything would change?
Well, if you just become like part of like Idaho or something.
Yeah.
Or Iowa
I mean,
or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, somewhere else. Yeah. Let's see what he says anyway. Top 10 states that don't matter, but somehow exist anyway.
Let's face it, some states don't need to be their own states. I live in Oregon, and I've always felt that we're very similar to Washington, and they might be better off if we just erase that border along the Columbia River and call it Washigan or something like that. Now, I understand there's about 1 million opinions in the world. I just have one. You might think your state is the most important. In the comments section, tell me why you think that. Basically change my mind. Or if you think your state should have its border erased and joined another state, let me know. So in this video,
I think the same about in the UK. I think Manchester should take over Merseyside. And just like Liverpool become part of Manchester.
Yeah, just all one big.
Just become Greater Manchester.
Nah, because
one
you can't
big
have two
shithole.
massive cities.
No,
Yeah,
'cause-
I don't want anything to do with them.
Nobody will piss them off. And we'll be like, sit down. You're in the back now.
We have 10 states that I feel are the best candidates to disappear and be divided up amongst nearby states that probably matter more. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look.
Nebraska.
Number 10, Nebraska. Nebraska is one of those states you could drive through for hours and not remember a single detail about it. Its nickname is the Cornhusker State, which is fitting because that's pretty much all they got. Corn. If you're into farming or college football, Nebraska might be mildly interesting to you. But let's be honest, it's just the flat Midwestern void between cooler places like
You
Colorado.
could just get all them places in the middle and make it one massive state.
one.
When you think about it though,
Texas too.
If you go to a state, there's certain states where you go, name a state, and if I name a state, right, and you give me a city, so if I say Massachusetts,
What, Boston?
Boston, yeah, if I say like Florida,
Miami?
yeah, right, Nebraska. Exactly.
And Chicago. It's really not a terrible state, but you got to be ready to be living a lifestyle that's not into excitement. Nebraska's population is around 2 million people, which is about the same number of people who will Google what is in Nebraska this year. Spoiler alert, it's still corn. I honestly think that Kansas, which is just about the same thing as Nebraska, need to just erase their border and become one big state. Really, if you're driving across the border of that state from Nebraska to Kansas, Kansas to Nebraska, and you don't happen to see the sign, you will never know what state you're in. If you ask Siri where you're at while you're driving, the response will probably be middle of nowhere. I mean, if they put their state together, maybe they'll get more electoral college votes. There's just not enough people in either state. It's got too much open space.
Fair point.
Well, to be fair, there actually
Number
is no
9,
big
West
city in
Virginia. West Virginia's greatest achievement was inspiring the song Take Me Home Country Road. But you won't find many people rushing to take the road back to the mountain state. It's one of the poorest states in the U.S., with a declining population and an economy that seems to be stuck in a coal-powered time warp. The mountains are beautiful. Yes, the people are wonderful. I know quite a few of them. They're amazing people. But you can only sing about them for so long before the reality sets in. With just under 1.8 million people, West Virginia feels like the rural cousin you only see at awkward family reunions. Now, West Virginia used to be part of Virginia. West Virginia's been in bad shape for some time, and Virginia's not. They'd probably do themselves a favor if they went back to being one territory or state. I don't have a problem with the people in West Virginia. Honestly, they're some of the greatest people I know. I have a problem with whoever's running that shit show. Number 8, Montana. Montana is mostly just wide open spaces and rugged landscapes, which sounds really cool in theory, but in reality, it's just like one big nature screensaver. Unless you're really into hunting,
Looks
fishing,
nice,
or
though.
avoiding human interaction,
Also
there's not much of a
boring,
reason to be here. Montana seems to exist purely for people who think Wyoming is far too crowded. My personal opinion, Montana is one of the most beautiful states we have, especially the western side of the state. Montana also has 9 different areas that are part of the National Park Service. I mean, some are battlegrounds and stuff like that. I think they have 2 or 3 national parks, Yellowstone and Glacier National Park. And Yellowstone only takes up a small portion. They got the Helena, Lewis and Clark National Forest there, the Beaverhead Deer Lodge National Forest, Flathead National Forest, and a few others. And I think that's what Montana should be. I think they should just close it off to anyone else moving in there and just turn the whole state into a giant national park. Sure, not all of it looks like Glacier National Park, but it's still a beautiful state. And it needs to be preserved as best we can. I know nothing like that would ever happen, but I think they should do something. Give them more national parks, state forests, and make it so fewer and fewer people can move into the state. Go visit all you want. Just don't move there. And I don't say that as a Montana person that thinks it's getting too crowded. I just think it's something that should be preserved. Too many people means it's not getting preserved as much.
Fair point, that. I absolutely love the look of it, Montana. It just looks amazing.
Yeah.
And it's one of them places where some people, you quite like when you go and visit somewhere. I'm talking purely as a tourist. I mean, I don't know what the implications would be of moving, say, West Virginia back into Virginia and having it all as one state. What the financial implications are and all that kind of stuff for, state tax, income tax, whatever it may be in different state to state. But as far as the tourist goes, Montana just looks idyllic, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've said that before, though.
Number 7, Idaho. Yes, we all know Idaho for its potatoes, but can we just admit that potatoes aren't exactly revolutionary? Sure, they're versatile,
What do you mean?
but is that really something to base an entire state's identity on?
Yeah, but do you know how many different types of food you can make out of potatoes?
Potato,
The
tons.
best food ever, really.
I mean, when I said they're versatile, they really are. French fries, anything else. You could eat potatoes 100 different ways. I mean, Matt Damon even grew them on Mars in that movie, The Martian. If you've never seen that movie, it's a sci-fi movie, but it's just great. And yes, potatoes play a big part in that movie.
Potato.
I always wonder if Idaho was in on that, like their tourism people. Hey, why don't you do a movie and really base it around potatoes? Once you get past the spuds, there's not much else going on in Idaho besides some mountains and a whole lot of empty spaces. It's basically the pantry of the United States, just full of starch. Idaho's population is around 1.9 million residents, which is about the same number of people who currently think TikTok dances count as real art. Idaho would be better off if it just combined itself with the whole national park thing and Montana, because it is a beautiful state and it is
But
getting
if Montana shouldn't exist and Idaho they can't go together, can they?
crowded. It didn't used to be. It's a great place if you like the outdoors and all that, but they're just getting too many people and they need to start making more national forests and everything else for that state.
This should obviously just be called Dakota.
Yeah,
just
north
two
and
of them.
south.
Yeah.
Number 6, South Dakota. The Mount Rushmore state. Speaking of Mount Rushmore, South Dakota's claim to fame is a bunch of dead presidents' faces carved into rock. Groundbreaking stuff, right? After you've snapped a few selfies with a few dead presidents on the side of a cliff, there's not much else to do. And again, unless you're into fishing and things like that. What else is there? I mean, if you go there, you could fish, you can go see Mount Rushmore, and then contemplate why you came here and wasted days of your vacation. Fun fact, South Dakota is one of the few states with more cows than people. That's mootastic. It's got a population that's just a touch over 900,000, about the same number of people who swore off Facebook but still check it every day. There's really not much going on in South Dakota. They don't have any giant industries jumping out of there past tourism and these days windmills. It just seems like it would be a better state if it combined itself with the next one on our list.
North Dakota.
Yeah.
Number 5, North Dakota. North Dakota has two things going for it: harsh winters and oil fields. That's it. If you've ever wanted to experience frostbite or see some drilling rigs, North Dakota's got you covered. It's one of those places you forget exists until someone brings up Mount Rushmore, and then you're like, oh wait, that's in South Dakota. Never mind. With a population that's just under 800,000,
not very
North
populated
Dakota's
around
biggest
there.
contribution to society is giving us Fargo, both the city and the much more interesting movie and TV show. North Dakota is ranked 19th in size, but 47th in population, meaning hardly anyone lives in this state. This state is 70,706 square miles. Rhode Island has 1,545 square miles, and it has about 250,000 more people. But like I
That's
said,
crazy.
in South Dakota, they just need to combine these two states, get rid of the whole north-south thing, and call it the Dakotas, call it Dakota, turn it into a firing range, whatever.
Vermont.
Oh,
Yeah,
Vermont.
this is the next one after this. Going to be New Hampshire, isn't it? They should might as well just be the same thing.
I kind of get his point here. I mean, the only people you're going to upset are people from that state.
Yeah.
You know, who think, no, I want South Dakota, and I want
Yeah.
North Dakota, or I want Vermont, or whatever it may be. But I've never met anyone from South Dakota or North Dakota, or even Vermont, and I've been to Vermont.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever met anyone who says I'm from Vermont.
Yeah.
These people say,
Even when you were in Vermont.
yeah, it was people who were saying, like, people I met, like, oh no, I'm from Massachusetts, but I live here now, or I'm
Oh,
from
right.
New York and I
Yeah.
live here now.
Number 4, Vermont. Yes, Vermont is one of those states that, it'd be better off if it had another state with it. I mean, it's beautiful. It's wonderful. Vermont is like the hipster of states, small, secluded, and way too into maple syrup and flannel shirts. It's basically Canada Light, but without the excitement of, well, anything. If you're into maple syrup and fall foliage, congrats. Vermont might be your dream vacation, but don't expect to do anything remotely interesting once winter hits. It's so laid back, it might actually be asleep. They need to just join up with New Hampshire so they at least have some beachfront property. Not a bunch, but the state would be connected to the ocean at least. These states are very similar in just about every respect. They're almost like a pair of identical twins. You look at them long enough, you'll see some differences. But just sitting next to each other in a room, they're the exact same person, just split in half. So just erase that line that goes down the Connecticut River on the map. Be the same state, then you'll have 2 national forests that are named after colors. Green Mountain National Forest and in New Hampshire, White Mountain National Forest. Both beautiful states though. Vermont's population is just over 640,000, which is still fewer than the number of people who will rewatch Friends for the 10th time this year.
That's quite low in the population
Yeah.
thing. I thought it was more than that.
Number 3, Wyoming. With fewer than 600,000 residents, Wyoming is basically a massive empty plot of land with some cows, a few bison, and national parks thrown in for good reason. It's the least populous state in the country, and it's mostly famous for a giant geyser that erupts less consistently than your motivation to go to the gym. Yellowstone may draw tourists, but what else is Wyoming doing? Probably counting tumbleweeds. Again, like Montana, one of those states that should probably be preserved. To put it in perspective, this YouTube channel has double subscribers than they have residents. Just combine them with Montana, make it a big national park or preserved land, whatever you gotta do.
Thing is, like, you might as well just get all them states that are in the top right and just call it New England as a state.
Or just England.
Just England.
We can move
Number
there.
2, Rhode Island. At just 1,500 square miles, Rhode Island is like that one person in your group chat who never says anything, but somehow still gets invited to every party. Yes, it is the small state, but it tries to overcompensate with too many syllables in its official name. The state of Rhode Island and Providence Plantation. Now, just recently, a couple of years back, they just changed it to Rhode Island, but that was their whole name for a long time. The official name. Everyone's always just called it Rhode Island. Rhode Island is really just a collection of small towns and one big city. That's it. I mean, technically every state is, but this one, it's a little more obvious that that's all it is, really. Rhode Island's population is just about 1.1 million residents, yet no one knows what actually happens there. For a place named after an island, it doesn't have much of a tropical vibe, just more Dunkin' Donuts per capita than any other state needs. They need to erase the border between them and Connecticut and just make one bigger state. I mean, the entire state's a glorified county.
You can kind of say that about everywhere,
Yeah.
really. You know, it's like, why have states at all? Why don't you just have one?
Yeah, put New Jersey and New York
No,
together.
why don't you
they're
just
all
have
the same.
one? Wait, can't you just call it USA, not the United States?
one
Or
big
one United
country,
States,
yeah.
just one country, just one big country, and that's it. And you have
Just
one
one big
capital,
state.
and it's just one country, and that's it. And everywhere else is a town that comes up. And then guess we've got counties as well. We do it the same way. We have counties, but our counties chop and change. They do take away. Middlesex used to be a county. It's not a county anymore, is it?
Oh, it's not. I didn't
I've
know
never
that.
heard of. No, you don't have Middlesex anymore. And then you've got like Lancashire. Greater Manchester sort of like appeared and sort of like started taking over a lot of Lancashire.
Yeah.
And now places like Wigan come under Greater Manchester, whereas in the past they would have been Lancashire, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and the whole Trafford and Cheshire debate.
Trafford, Cheshire, yeah, because people think Cheshire's posh, and now you find that a lot of posh people who live in Cheshire actually live in Trafford. And they don't like it, and I keep reminding them of it
Yeah.
when they go Cheshire and I go Trafford, and they don't like that. They go, well, it used to be Cheshire, so it's Trafford now. You know, but it's one of them. But I think what he's getting here, what do you think number one's going to be? I think
That's
know.
what I've been thinking. I was at first I was thinking
Arkansas.
Oklahoma because like just put it with Texas. But now I'm thinking it's got to be like Maryland or Delaware.
Delaware is what I'm thinking. Delaware is just one of them. It's just one of them where you just pass
But
through.
Maryland could just so easily be part of Pennsylvania. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but Maryland's got a lot. There's a lot of history with like the naval yards.
Or is that
there and all
Delaware? Am I thinking of Delaware? Which
But
one's
you've got a lot of history, haven't you, with like Maryland? With you got Baltimore there, big city, Baltimore.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
you got
that's
Annapolis, and places like with big naval base and all that
Probably
kind
be
of stuff.
Delaware, won't it?
You've got like again, it's one of them states where you say Delaware, and you think what you associate Delaware with? Nothing. I can't think of anything where Delaware sticks out, and you go Delaware, apart from the river, the Delaware River. You know, but you look at as a tourist, it's coastal. It's got things that go in there. Do you want to give up a coastal state? You know, if you're from there.
All right, before we get to number 1, if you're thinking about moving to a new state, new city, anywhere in the United States, there's a link for a website called Home and Money. They can get you in touch with a real estate agent anywhere in the country. All right, on to number 1.
Delaware.
And number 1, Delaware. Delaware's claim to fame is, wait for it, being the first state to ratify the Constitution. Now that's a life-changing achievement.
first
For a
state. First
state
state.
with fewer residents than your average Taylor Swift concert. They love to tout their corporate-friendly laws. That just means they're a legal haven for businesses that couldn't care less about the actual people living there. I mean, the goal of a city or state is to get new businesses in that will employ their residents. Delaware has more corporations in the state than just about any other state, or just about any 5 states combined. And they're just there to park their headquarters or their, post office box, putting out no jobs. I'm sure some do. I'm not saying this is all how it is. Just some of them, that's what they're doing. Delaware's an interesting state. It is beautiful. I got to admit, outside of Wilmington, it's a very beautiful
Wilmington.
state.
Wilmington,
But you could drive across the whole state in less time than it takes to watch a single Marvel movie. Statistically speaking, Delaware has a population of just over 1 million residents. For reference, that's about the same number of people who accidentally followed Delaware on Instagram because they thought it was Detroit. This state needs to quit pretending it's an actual state and just get back together with Maryland. Yeah, up until 1767, the southern part of Delaware was actually part of Maryland. Back in the old days, way back, they had exchanged hands with this place a few times. At one point, it was called New Sweden, and another time it was called New Netherland.
No.
You can't get rid of the first state, though, can you?
Not if that's what it's known as.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's quite the nickname for the state is quite cool, actually.
Yeah, I think actually they should make more states. I think they should split some of them up and make more states. I'd like to see things like sports state.
Well,
right?
you need
So
Jefferson.
it's called Sports State, and what it is, it's got like about 5 or 6 different stadiums in there that are massive. It's got loads of hotels and loads of places to stay. Its climate's nice all year round, and then you host the World Cup there once a year. Once every 4 years, you host loads of sporting events, constant sporting events all the way around. You have racetracks for Formula One and for NASCAR and for all stuff like that. Just a massive sports state. And that's all it does, just host sporting events. And everyone comes in. It's got 2 airports. It's got a train system. You build it all from scratch. And you let all the sports companies buy into it. And then they have their own little areas.
And then you move there.
And I go and live there.
What do we have to do to make this happen?
Right, and then you've got finance state, where all the banks go. They all have their headquarters in there. And it's all based there, and it's all.
I prefer it how it is
and then you have the food state, which is like could be somewhere, could be like Nebraska. So it does all grows like
I'm in the
foods
sports state. I'm gonna have to go over to the food state if I want dinner.
It goes into like Nebraska, and you got like all in Wyoming where it's on beef and all that sort of thing. They produce all the foods and all that kind of stuff. And then you have like the holiday state, Florida, around that area. So you've got like the panhandle around that holiday state.
Have you been thinking
It's got
about
some of the
this?
best.
Darren
It's got great beaches. It's got, and then you have like there's loads of stuff you can do. Yeah. Then you can have like the shit state and right in the centre of New Jersey. I'm joking, but you can have these loads of stuff in there. You could do.
No, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it like that, though, mate.
That's what I thought about, making my own world.
Yeah.
Dad's world.
Yeah, you already live in it.
You can have like fairground states, and you just have like mass
Vegas,
rides,
all
like
gambling.
massive gambling states. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that'll be a good one.
Yeah, and you
I'm
can
on
do all
board
things
now.
like that. Where you can have like horse race. You can have like horse racing tracks and casinos and you name it, whatever you can gamble on. Dog racing. Just it's the empire. Everyone goes there and goes right all from around the world. But you have like different you build new airports and all that. So you've got 4 or 5 airports. So you're not queuing like a knobhead.
Yeah, that sounds cheap.
Got it planned out.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
hey, surfing state, whatever they can do. Surf
Go to
Hawaii. That could be
Hawaii.
Hawaii. Yeah. Anyway, let me know if you've come up with a state. what you want to see. Sports state sounds good though, doesn't it?
Yeah,
got that.
but, yeah.
It's up there.
You got to do your sport from where you're from, though. You can't just make a new state for it.
No. That's just where it hosts like major events. You're not doing weekly stuff there. Like you're not playing like your regular.
Well, that
you're not
costs
playing
too much
like
money for something that's
you're not
only
playing
going to
like
happen. That,
yeah, but if you
that
let's say you
often.
set up a sports state and it's
Right,
in
it's
the
never
centre.
going to happen.
No.
It's never going to happen.
You're not going to have the Denver Broncos against New England playing there, unless it's like the Super Bowl. That's where the Super Bowl's host.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Hope you guys enjoyed that as well. Don't forget like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.
Cheers.
Bye.